African American and Hispanic American poverty are at an all-time low. Our economy is at an all-time high. All-time high.
In 2018, President Trump proclaimed that America's economy was the greatest it's ever been. But what does that even mean? How does one measure the economy? What are the benefits of having a good economy? And what are the troubles a country faces if an economy were to worsen? These are the economic issues. First of all, an economy can be measured in many ways: GDP, GNP, and even NNP. GDP is the total value of the output of goods and services in a country in a given period, usually a year. It encapsulates the relative wealth and prosperity of a country, and the rise or fall of a GDP can usually be interpreted as a growing or falling economy. Of course, there are many advantages and disadvantages to using GDP as a metric. It's a relatively basic way of looking at a nation's economy, but it's easy to use. However, GDP doesn't take into account the population of a country and the quality of the nation's output. Despite this, the business cycle diagram, using GDP as a metric, perfectly showcases the state of an economy over the years. Economic growth, where the GDP rises, unemployment decreases, and more consumers are willing to buy, are usually followed by an economic boom, when many people have the bright idea of spending at the same time, leading to inflation of prices and businesses being unable to keep up with the large demand. Following this, there's usually a recession. There are many causes to recession, such as crises, industries collapsing, etc. The common thing that happens during a recession is that rich people lose their money because either consumers stop spending or there are rising costs in a business. As a result, the employers don't pay as much to the employees, who thus spend less on services, which means more employers will be unable to pay their employees. This vicious cycle causes a recession, a slowing of output in a country and less economic activity. A slump occurs when a recession occurs for a long time. Prices begin to fall as many businesses reach their breaking point, but consumers are still hesitant to spend money in an uncertain time like a recession. Many businesses will close or lay people off, and more people become unemployed as a result. This is the business cycle. The length of each period can vary, but are usually followed by the corresponding phase. If your business is somehow able to survive a recession, be it from government subsidies, downscaling of operations, or just sheer luck, you get to reap the benefits of another economic growing period. As you can see, economic recessions are an absolute nightmare for the citizens of a country. In a recession, wages get lower, jobs get lost, and overall, less people are willing to buy things. Governments need to ensure that recessions don't happen. Enter the objectives for the economy. Other than the obvious don't get into a recession part, there's many other things an administration aims to achieve with the economy. Number 1, low inflation. Not to be confused with the other inflation, price inflation is the increase of the average price of goods and services over time. During an economic boom, there's a lot more demand than there is for actual goods. Thus, in order to capitalize, many businesses increase their prices to get more added value. Unfortunately, this has an absolutely disastrous effect on the economy when everyone has the great idea of doing it at once. Now more people have to give up things they can't afford anymore, an opportunity cost, if you will. And the next thing you know, you're in a recession. Everyone's real income is in the red, and everyone is really mad at the government. This has the added effect of deterring immigrants in search of job opportunities from coming into the country due to the high prices, and less businesses are willing to grow due to the incoming recession, only making the situation worse. Number 2, low unemployment. This one is quite self-explanatory. Unemployed people don't produce goods or services and therefore can't contribute to economic activity or the GDP. Governments also don't want them to starve, so have to give them unemployment benefits. When unemployment rates grow higher, they will have to spend more to pay the unemployed people to do essentially nothing. And in return, the people poetically respond by being mad at the government, because no one wants to be unemployed. The first 2 points can be achieved by a government through regulating industries to ensure prices do not soar and ensure competitiveness in an industry, thus eliminating a business's ability to simply raise prices. In addition, a government can also create a fiscal policy. This is where a government adjusts its spending levels and tax rates in order to monitor and influence a country's economy. This can be through direct and indirect taxes, which will be discussed later in the chapter. Finding the right balance in fiscal policy can save a nation's economy and keep its citizens happy. Number 3 is economic growth. We already discussed why not growing the economy is quite bad, so I'll just skip to number 4, balance of payments. Nations import and export items to and from other countries. If a country is importing more than it's exporting, it's called a deficit, and it can cause some problems. A country can be depleted of all its foreign currency and may have to take loans abroad. In addition, the price of a country's currency may fall, named exchange rate depreciation, when a currency of a country is less attractive to investors and thus inflation of a different kind occurs. Currency depreciation can lead to rising prices for businesses domestically to import goods abroad as they have a weaker currency, and this can also contribute to a recession. So when Trump said that the American economy was the greatest it's ever been, was he really telling the truth? Yes. In terms of GDP, GDP per capita, and unemployment rate, in 2018, they were almost the highest they ever were. That's all I'm willing to talk about today. There's more in this chapter about government, taxes, tariffs, and policy, but it's quite boring and I didn't really want to talk about it.